Welcome to the Healthy Careers Podcast, where we help healthcare providers succeed on purpose. We take a conversational approach in learning from others who have been there and done that. Join us as we share expert insights from real people who are just like you, because we believe that success isn't just a destination. It's an intentional journey, and you don't have to do it alone.
All right. Welcome back to the Healthy Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Maddie, and today I am super excited to have Dr. Jeffrey Smith with me because he is an orthopedic trauma surgeon, but he is also the owner of SurgeonMasters, which is a super coaching organization that helps both physicians and APPs. And I think what he is doing is so necessary in this industry as well as impactful. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having me, Maddie.
Of course. So tell us, if you can, kind of your elevator pitch of who you are and what you're all about.
Well, that's a good question because I'm always changing it, but because I like to be spontaneous. I'm an orthopedic trauma surgeon in San Diego, California that is still clinically active. And in that realm of my life, I help patients from injury through the process of treatment and through their recovery to basically get to their best point of functioning and recovery. So that's super gratifying for me still as a physician. And I also, as a surgeon coach and physician coach, I help and work with other performance-driven individuals that are both performance and quality driven and help them to navigate a fairly complex career. But trying to do it in a way that integrates the other aspects of their life, nurturing relationships, their own well-being, and trying to make those careers much more sustainable.
Yeah, which I think is right now in healthcare, there's such a shortage of physicians, and there's also a lot of physicians who are burnt out from the last few years, and I'm sure people that have just been in it so long that they want to move into either, every day I get, hey, are you hiring any non-clinical positions? And, it's sad because these people are brilliant and they have something that a lot of people can't naturally go do, And I think there's not a lot of coaching and mentorship around how to sustain that. And also, like you said, how to kind of work smarter, not harder, and still be able to not be burnt out from all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had some of that experiences myself. I actually like to describe burnout as a positive thing. It's actually a good trigger to help people recognize that something's off in what they're doing and what they really want to be doing. And if you look at it that way, it's much more of a positive. It doesn't need to be viewed as a failure or failing on the part of the individual. It's certainly that we work in a very demanding career and field. And I just agree with you that there's such a large talent pool and that we should be doing things to support and maintain that talent pool.
Yeah. I also think there's this kind of thing that people don't talk about when it comes to the recruitment side of things is people think, okay, surgeons, doctors, they're the smartest people in the room. They know all the answers, right? So why would they need balance? Why would they need a coach, right? And it's no matter how smart you are, no matter who you are, we're still human. We're still people. And we still need support and need those outlets to feel like we can keep going even on the tough days. And I like how you said that about burnout, because one thing I've always said too is you can't burn out if you're, to me, it shows passion. Somebody that's not passionate about what they do is never going to burn out because they're never going to put in the amount of effort or energy to ever get to the burnout stage.
Well, and one thing that I think is really important is that there are a lot of people that I work with that are very passionate, and in some ways they're at fairly high risk of a drastic transition to being high functioning to completely burned out because they're so passionate about what they do that they mitigate all these things that keep them going. And using tools that sometimes suppress that human element or that humanity. And I encourage people to do it with a lot more positive strategies. And certainly what I'm doing with SurgeonMasters, we're trying to do that, as well as in the coaching space. Coaching has a very positive, strength-based mindset,
Yeah.
and so it's in many ways either an antidote or at least a prevention strategy for a lot of those things, including the ones that can blindside you a little bit.
Yeah. Very true. So, a few questions for you just about Surgeon Masters, and maybe also just diving a little bit deeper into what inspired you to start Surgeon Masters, as well as the impact and influence it has. So, when you think back to, your early career as a surgeon, how might have something like Surgeon Masters helped you in that trajectory of your career?
Well, I'd say in both circumstances, having a coach would have likely had a very significant impact on my career trajectory. Obviously, this is sort of looking at things in a 2020 hindsight. And I know that I really don't have that many regrets in my life. I see that I've learned a lot. I've learned from my life lessons and challenges. But I think that, I'm at a point in time in my career where I have the opportunity to give back
Mm-hmm.
and help people benefit from that hindsight. And I know that working with a coach for me, it probably would have given me a much more positive and proactive approach to many of the challenges that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly would have been proactive and constructive with goals that I set myself, and maybe put them in a little bit more realistic um, perspective.
Timeline.
Uh,
Sure.
and so I think that is, something that probably would have led to less sensation of burnout, and or the opposite, which is what I'm always really striving for with clients that I work with, which is to just simply more fulfilled and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like we're approaching things in a way where it becomes just more reinforcing to our passion.
100%. Yeah. And I think now is a good time, now that we've kind of given people that teaser as to what coaching can do for someone's career. What is Surgeon Masters? Explain to us what the vision is, what all you do, and maybe also tell us why you decided to open that business.
Well, Surgeon Masters was kind of just a natural progression of my completing professional coach training.
Okay.
And so I'll kind of tell the story a tiny bit, like half in
Mhm.
reverse, half forward.
Sure.
But when I started Surgeon Masters, I really had learned a lot in my professional coach training, just a whole different mindset than what I was used to. It was much more positive, reinforcing, and incorporating a lot of the strategies that we now use with coaching and Surgeon Masters. And I was like, wow, like this just is something very different than my experience in healthcare. And so I started a company that was doing things that I felt were bringing in this different culture and different mindset. A lot of
Sure.
it was in well-being and wellness. At the time, coaching still had in healthcare a lot more of a remedial perception and a weakness perception, that you only needed to coach if you were weak.
Mm.
And now I think trends are changing, and we're seeing that we've just been uh, not acknowledging the benefits of coaching in many other industries
Mhm.
and professions. And so I think now that that is changing, using the word coaching, I think is easier to use, even though really what I was trying to do was bring in that philosophy before. And how I got there was that I myself was looking for an exit strategy. I was
Mm.
looking for, what do I do if I can't physically do what I do as a
Sure.
surgeon? What do I do if I don't really want to do what I'm doing as a surgeon, from standpoints of either uh, compassion fatigue or just other things contribute to why people don't want to keep practicing clinically.
Sure.
And that was what I was looking, but I was using my intelligence that you described, that we're smart individuals. And I thought, gosh, don't figure this out 1 or 2 years before, like have an advance plan. So this was really strategic to have an exit strategy whenever I decided.
Okay.
And the irony was that it became my stay in strategy because I was incorporating some of those things. So now fast forward 10, 15 years forward, and I'm still clinically active because I integrated a lot of those things for myself. And even before that step, I was probably experiencing some of the burnout because I saw my colleagues stepping out of clinical practice way earlier than I thought. Gosh, these are people that I want to take care of me or my family members when they're sick or injured.
Yeah.
And stepping out of their clinical practice, what I felt was way earlier than I thought made sense. And it gets back to a little bit my earlier comment about our talent pool. Why aren't we supporting and nurturing our talent pool? So SurgeonMasters has just become a way for me to bring that and sort of drive my passion to be helping other people, other physicians, other healthcare professionals have a fulfilling, satisfying career and stay in longer.
Yeah, which is necessary right now because they're looking at the numbers of how many physicians are going to be retiring, and that's going to be a huge problem. So, anything that can help people to even extend by just a few years, if they feel like it's just that they're feeling burnout, but they can integrate different ways to make it work, then fantastic. I think that'll impact just the overall healthcare system positively.
And the irony is that the approaches that we're taking aren't to just address burnout when it's happened. It's actually the other side of the spectrum, which is, why are we satisfied with just surviving? Why are we satisfied with even just having a career that works? Like maybe we even call it successful. And I think really, honestly, all of us have the capacity to be at a higher level of where we're at. And that might even be thriving. So people that are doing really well still benefit from these approaches because it allows you to be enjoying it even more.
Yeah.
And so like when people say, I don't need this because things are okay, it's like, is okay good enough?
Right. Yeah. I think about it too a lot like therapy, because as a kid, I went to therapy. I had OCD really bad. And then I remember it was like, okay, I wasn't having the compulsions anymore, so I didn't need to go to therapy. And my mom was like, no, you still need to go to therapy because even if you're not having the compulsions, you still have to find proactive ways that if you get stressed and it's triggered by this or that, you know what to do and how to handle it without ever going back to that space. And why just settle for, I don't have OCD anymore, but I'm still an anxious wreck, to, I think that even if people are steady, go see a therapist, have an outlet, have a coach, have a mentor, however you want to coin it. But I think that's so important in being proactive and not waiting for your body to shut down or waiting till you say, I can't spend another day in this hospital. I think that would solve so many problems and make, like you said, make people happier in what they do.
Yeah. And coaching and therapy are different. That's a field
100%.
that also provides additional support, but it's an adjunct, that it's another avenue to having those human conversations with someone who gets us. And that's been one of the benefits of SurgeonMasters and our physician coaching. So you have somebody else that's also been through a similar training, and then those folks that work with us, and we have some advanced practice professional coaches. So you have people that have had very similar experiences that are having a conversation with you and helping you function as your best self. So you gave a great example of that, and there are many other things that also provide benefit: mentoring, counseling, therapy, just having a good social support system. But coaching to me is something that has been underappreciated and underrepresented in healthcare.
100%. So now would be a good time to explain too, because I think even myself, when I try to in my head determine, okay, what's the difference between a mentor and a coach? So if you can maybe tell us a little bit more about that and how you in SurgeonMasters as a coach are different than somebody that's just going to come to you every now and then for a question.
Yes, so a mentor can use coaching skills, and a coach can step out of their coach role and do some mentoring. But in general, a mentor is one who uses their experience to share knowledge and a path forward. So I want to work with a mentor because that person is doing many similar things to what I want to see in my career, and that's then how I might mentor down.
Sure.
But it's more often that relationship where it's a senior, and there's a little bit of a power dynamic that's skewed in that relationship. And so these things can be helpful, but it does introduce a bias in that the mentor feels like the mentee's coming to them because their way was the right way. And that isn't always the case. And there's a lot of different things in our individual paths, our individual values, and belief systems. So that sort of limits a little bit the power of the mentor relationship, whereas a coach supports each individual's thinking and planning. So it allows the client to stay within their own value system, stay in many ways in their level of lifelong learning, and then just leverages the client to be working often a little bit beyond their comfort zone, and not necessarily so incredibly aspirationally different, because a lot of times, your mentor may have achieved things way sooner than you ever will. And that can sometimes be discouraging, whereas a coach will often create hopefully an environment of humility and still allow the aspirations and goal setting to create a path, but still put it in perspective and individualize it to the client.
Yeah, that's helpful. I think about it too, because I have a few mentors in my life, and you're right. They're all older than me. They've all accomplished way more than me. And so they're more of the people that I go to when I feel like I'm hitting a rut in something that maybe is more of a mix of like personal and professional stuff. And then I have a coach within recruitment, and that person is more so like focused on performance and numbers and achievements and looking at like building a roadmap. And it's more of like a integrated part of my everyday, whereas my mentors, I'm not talking to them every single day, right? I'm not meeting with them every single week or on a scheduled cadence. It's just like, yeah, they're people that I can go to if I'm running into something. But a coach is more of that professional, not instruction guide per se, but someone that's going to understand your goals and help you with where you're at in that moment and not just be looking at 10 years down the road.
Yeah, and the relationship is key. I mean, there's certainly clients that work with me or our other coaches that will have a short-term engagement and may still be then creating space between the next time they work with a coach.
Sure.
But it is very much about the relationship and the dynamic of partnering with the client to basically be the best version of themselves and to advance in the goals that they have set for themselves, not somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. And how have you seen that coaching drives performance for physicians?
So it's mainly in the incorporation of the coaching mindset and also incorporating a lot of the skills. So there's certain ways to ask questions, demonstrate that you're really listening to the client, described as active listening, and many more skills that help create the vision of success and leverage the strengths of the individual client to work in areas, like I said, a little bit beyond your comfort zone. If we're all doing what we already do well, then we're not typically learning and growing. Now you can get into a cycle of repetitive successes doing the same thing over and over again, but it usually isn't the path to greatest amount of success. And coaching also leverages sort of the science of performance improvement, integrating that human element. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things advancing in this field where there's app-based ways to continue to nudge people the way they want to be nudged because they control the settings. But when you add the human element, it helps decompress things. It helps put a more human perspective on what you're trying to do. And those conversations really, I think, help the client continue to move forward. And when they hit roadblocks, the coach is trying to help them see and recognize what those barriers might be. And when they're progressing and exceeding, then the coaches continue to give recognition for that. A lot of highly successful people don't do a very good job of patting themselves on the back, and they'll quickly, if you will, think of a better way to say it, but blow off the success. Like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Like, of course I'm succeeding. And then when they struggle, it's a much stronger message or voice that they're creating surrounding that. And so the coach can help them kind of balance that out.
Yeah, which I think is very true when you think about most people in medicine and physicians. I mean, you have to kind of be that type A personality where it's like everything, you're your own worst critic. And a lot of times they don't celebrate the wins as much as they should, and they just have to be heads down and move on to the next thing. And then when they are running into something, it's like they're not expected to have the problems. They're supposed to be the problem solver. So, rarely do they have the time to even stop and think about it. And then I think that's where it can sometimes just, you push it under the rug, push it under the rug, push it under the rug until it's too late. So if you can equip people with the right resources and outlets, then, that's what you said can help you to not just be okay, but be great and love what you do.
So many things of what you're saying I completely agree with. It's leveraging and supporting what the culture or the specialty kind of expects. I think I've been surprised, and you might be surprised. There's actually a lot of different personalities, including type B people in medicine, and they too require their little nuance of how they're most effectively coached. There's introverts, there's extroverts, there's all sorts of personality types in medicine, and all, in my opinion, deserve that opportunity for what is their way to navigate the challenges of the career and still be very fulfilled.
Definitely. So help me to understand then, as an onboarding coach, what exactly are they doing in that onboarding phase, and what does that look like?
Well, the thing about onboarding is the concept is you're starting a new job. Sometimes that's the first quote real job in your career. Other times that's a new job where you're seeking a different location or something else that brings you to that new job. But there's a really high or steep learning curve in those first few months of practice at a new place. It's unbelievable how many things, and most of us know we can do that. It's obviously the little things seem like they're going to be easy and no brainer, but they are occurring at the same time as the big things.
Yeah.
And so it actually can be fairly challenging and stressful, even though there might be a lot of excitement and sense of a fresh start. They can be positive, but you can't always predict how that's going to go. And having an onboarding coach gives you an ally or partner that helps you work through that when a challenge occurs, when a good thing is happening. You don't get distracted by just the positives and almost forgetting the things that intentionally or unintentionally getting ignored. And so through multiple conversations that, maybe spread out over once a month or every couple of weeks, then you have someone that you can be checking in with and discussing these things in a coaching conversation that uses kind of the principles of change management, because that's a lot what's happening is you're dealing with a lot of change.
Yeah.
And then incorporating sometimes some skills that, physicians or healthcare professionals are either never taught or not really taught to the capacity that they would most benefit from. And so the coach's role is to engage the client in those conversations and help them have a smoother integration of principles of change, foster best practices in a lot of areas, which may include communication, team management, even personal development, and much more.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is so awesome, because as a recruiter, I don't understand from the physician standpoint, obviously, because I'm not a physician, but I talk to physicians all day, every day. And I find that the biggest hurdles for them is typically in that onboarding phase, right? I'm sorry, there's a fly like attacking me right now. I can edit that out, but
I think you should I personally think you should keep the fly in, because that adds entertainment.
But when I talk to these physicians, I think the scariest part for me when I think about like, okay, are these people going to succeed? I could have a physician who is brilliant and personable and all the right things, right? They carry all the right things that you would want and hire. And then you have a practice that is fantastic and they've got a great culture and they've got all the right people on the bus. But it's like sometimes it's not that it's not a fit. It's just that nobody talks about it. Right? There's no HR in a lot of private practices. Everybody is like kind of eat what you kill model. So everybody is in their own world. And so when somebody new starts, it's like, yeah, there's some initial training, but there's really no time spent getting to know that person on a deeper level. There's not a lot of ongoing coaching or training happening. It's like, okay, are you good? Perfect. Great. Right. And that kind of ramp time is really the best time to kind of go slow to go fast, if you will, right? And making sure that hire is feeling supported, is feeling heard, is feeling like their questions are being answered, even if they seem like silly questions to the other person. And so I think utilizing SurgeonMasters is so key for some of these practices who they simply just don't have the time or the resources to give those new hires that level of support, which is normal. I mean, I see that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you describe it incredibly well, and that's why I think you and I are on the same page of thinking of how this can be of such value to the practice and the physician being onboarded. It's just there's so much opportunity. It really kind of encourages that communication. It really encourages the comfort level of giving and receiving feedback, because the other thing that can occur is that there's small little things that people would give you feedback about, but they don't want to offend you because they like you and they want to keep you. But at the same time, if you're not getting some feedback, then you don't know what's being received well and what's not. And that feedback can be in all sorts of areas. I mean, people come into medicine with tremendous strengths, but each of us, has nuance about us that we don't know always how we're coming across. And so I think you're highlighting like just the tremendous opportunity for an improved experience.
Well, and I think what people fail to understand is that those first 3 to 6 months are so vital in making sure if you're the practice owner, you're, hiring somebody and they're coming on board and you're paying them a good salary, right? And usually in private practice, the first year is like they've got a guarantee, is that you want to retain them. You don't want them to walk out the door within 3 to 6 months because they don't feel like they're getting that proper coaching and training. And so when you look at turnover rates, how that impacts a business, right? And patient continuity and revenue and all the things, and you look at just the true cost of turnover as well from an overhead perspective. If you've just paid to have this person, start with you, have a base salary, credentialing, all the things, it's a lot. And so if you're going to pay for something, I see coaching as kind of like, if you're going to have somebody on your team, the whole reason you're hiring them is for them to be successful there. Coaching is kind of like I don't know if you will, like the insurance package, right? Of like, let's make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make this person feel like they can be successful here and equip them with the right resources.
Yeah, I love the analogy. I think it is an insurance package. It's investing that small amount more in long-term retention. I think it is a great opportunity to make it really, win-win. I think coaching is very much about synergy. Coaching is very much about helping both the physician and others realize what's in their control, what's not, and even what things might become in their control if they are effective in some of these areas, whether it's communication or making people feel appreciated, right? So if you have a new physician and he's doing phenomenal or doing very well or as well as expected, maybe even a little bit better, helping that person know how to, in a way, seek that appreciation, as well as know how the organization can provide that appreciation. In a way, coaching is a great example of actually doing that because you're showing that you're investing in that individual.
And I think it creates a level of divide too, because it's like nobody's going to go to their boss and be like, hey, I hate that you do these 3 things, especially if they're a new hire, right? But if they have a coach and you're providing them with that resource and that outlet, well, then it's a lot easier because the coach can help them to overcome those challenges. And it's like, look, you're not going to maybe change those 3 things about your boss that you might not like, but here's how you can deal with it, or here's how you can have a better conversation about it. So that communication moving forward and that relationship moving forward remains strong. And I think it's a good sign of a good culture as well. If somebody is willing to provide that coaching and pay for that coaching for new hires, because it's letting go of their control a little bit, right? I think a lot of people are like, well, they can just come to me and talk to me. And it's like, yeah, they probably won't though, because that's just human nature.
Yeah, I can tell you that there's, I think there's 2 sides to this and obviously a lot in the middle, but there are definitely the experiences that organizations hire and have really tough negative experiences with the person that they hired. And then have some in the middle and they have some that are like, wow, this was great. We did a fantastic job with this hire. And I think while there is a significant part of that hiring process and that recruiting process, I think that it's equally important to notice what part of it is in that onboarding process and how you integrate into the culture. And think that coaching really increases the statistics of your success to a point where it's well worth the investment. I also think that, and I'm pausing a little bit here because I remember you made a second point and I got to think of it. So the second point you made,
and now I'm forgetting it too. So if you can't remember it, don't worry about it.
Give me a second. So
I think I was talking about
it's that, but it
the
is
control factor of like a sign of a good culture is a culture that invests in their people, and let's go of that. They can come to me.
Yeah. So it's both the culture that you can create by being supportive. I also think you were highlighting a really good opportunity, which is that that impartial intermediary, right? And that I've had many experiences where a very supportive leadership thought, wow, like we're very, I don't know if the word's progressive, but we're very supportive. We have a great culture. And this individual's, the nicest guy. But there's a dynamic that's the person that hired you. And will an individual surgeon go to the nicest guy and say, these are some things that I'm struggling with or that I find challenging. And when you have a coach that's not necessarily between the two, but involved in working with the physician client, then it really gives them a space to share some of the challenges that they might have with different people internally. And then it's completely confidential, and it's an avenue to go into those relationships with your best self to make the relationships even stronger.
Well, you spend so much time with each other.
But my point being is that sometimes the organizations that think, as you said, I can, they can come to me, I can problem solve and I can support. No doubt that helps the culture. But it's interesting how much more a coach can add. And then when that's not your forte, but you have a very strong organization with great clinical practices, then a coach can also complement in ways where it might be a weakness, where you don't have quite the same HR services, and people can still feel like they're being supported because they have this added value as part of their practice.
Well, and I like to think of it as like a blind spot, right? Because that's what I see the most with private practice is someone will quit and they go, well, wait a second, I didn't even know that they were unhappy. And it's like, well, what measures did you take to gauge that? I mean, what did you do to figure out if they were or were not? Or were you just going off the fact that they showed up to work? Because I mean, a lot of people do that and it doesn't make them happy where they're at. They just know that they have to go to work to get their paycheck. I think it's also good as a blind spot, as you're saying, as that middleman or woman to say, okay, and even from my standpoint, right? And we'll get to this in a second is how can we utilize this partnership that we're going to announce here is in being able to deliver that feedback to the client as well, right? Like, hey, I'm hearing this over here and I just want you to be made aware of it because it might not be brought to your attention and it doesn't need to cause, issues, but maybe you can work on X, Y, and Z, and I'm happy to help you build out a performance management system or something that's a check-in point. And so I think it's all just gearing back towards how do you make people feel valued and listened to and respected for what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's hard for me to add to that. Great comment.
Thank you. But with all that, I mean, I think we both wanted to share the exciting news and announcing the partnership that SurgeonMasters and Advanced Scope are going to be coming together to be able to offer this fantastic coaching to all new physician hires as well as APP hires through Advanced Scope at no additional cost to you from my side. And that is something that will allow you to get, I think, 3 free coaching sessions spaced out however you please with somebody who can understand you and help to make sure that we're mitigating any of that attrition that could happen in that ramp period.
Yeah, it really, I'm excited about the partnership because it highlights, your interest in recruiting people and making it a successful recruitment.
Yeah.
So, it shows your passion and dedication to helping the people that you're bringing to the organization. And, we love that. So we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to positively impact the lives of the clients that we work with. And we do it through coaching. We have a lot of fantastic coaches that people can select from, and all driven to try and help make the transition as smoother.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds because it's a huge gap. Like I said, it's a blind spot. most of the practices I work with, they don't have HR, and I get it. They don't have time. So their heart might be in the right place, and they might say, we want all of that, but who's going to do it, right? Like, who's going to be the coach? And so I think this is a perfect opportunity for the candidate to feel well supported during the first few months, for the client to feel like they are monitoring those blind spots and getting proper feedback, so that everybody can be in a place where they're successful and feeling well supported for the future.
Yes, it's exciting. I think that we might be biased. I might be biased. I think it's a no-brainer, but it really is leveraging what we've learned
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of time and energy, and some challenges, that this is a much more successful way to integrate somebody into your practice.
Which isn't easy, right? I think some people just assume, okay, get the offer letter and have it signed, and as long as all the onboarding, background checking, credentialing, and all that's good to go, well, then day one, you show them around the office and you have them shadow with someone for the first few weeks maybe, and then it's like, okay, good luck. And ultimately, people need more than that. And even if they don't need to, they don't want you to hold their hand, but they do want to feel like they have resources. And I think that SurgeonMasters just delivers such a high level and impactful way to do that without having to take away from, the practice owners or the stakeholders' time. And it doesn't require anything more of them other than to just be open to the fact that it will make their new hires more successful.
Yeah. I mean, and I probably should have alluded to this when you mentioned it
Sure.
earlier. But there is a mindset that we'll figure it out and we can do it on our own. And when we hire, we do put a lot of onus on the person who's hired to figure a lot out on their own. And they will do an amazing job with that. The nice thing about the coaching and this collaboration is that coaching is customized. So where it's going smooth, you may choose to not have many coaching conversations about that. Where the individual is having the rough spots, then those are opportunities for coaching to navigate through those without the owner or the organization or group having to get drastically involved. Now they'll want to be involved. The client will want them to be involved, but figuring out how to navigate that well, it can often be done through a coaching conversation. So it doesn't have to be, everyone survive on their own. You have this way to have sort of an integrated support system.
Yeah. Well, and everybody knows too that I like when people say, hire me a purple unicorn, and I tell them there is no such thing. That's why it's a purple unicorn. Now I can hire you a really smart surgeon or doctor who is hardworking and has all of the right soft skills. And there might be some areas where there's going to be a little bit more training involved or a little bit more communication needed. But that doesn't take away from their ability to do the job. It just means that we need to be able to identify those gaps, which is the hardest part, right? For ourselves as well as when we hire folks, identify the gaps and then be able to fill them with the right resources. And I think that's exactly what SurgeonMasters allows people to do.
Yep.
Awesome.
Definitely. And that's what people, we're all striving to do our best job. We all wake up in the morning wanting to do good work and have a day that, goes well. And so the coaching can be to increase the frequency of those days and what we're really striving to do. And it can be also helping us work through any of the little or medium or bigger glitches that can occur.
100%. I'm excited for it. I think this will be super just positive all around for everybody involved. And we will be, obviously putting out some more information about this in a newsletter coming from SurgeonMasters. And then on my end, we'll have an ability for you or anybody listening to look to see what coaches are available if you're looking for a job through us and end up getting hired somewhere. So it'll be a very personalized, as Jeff said as well, customized to what you're needing, and making sure that everybody feels 100% walking into something new, because it's always a little scary.
So exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It has been great just learning more about how coaching has influenced you to stay in the game, as well as just the people that you've helped to also do the same. And more to come on this for sure, everybody. If you are interested in learning more about SurgeonMasters, I will for sure link all of their information in the show notes. So feel free to check those out below. And outside of that, if you want to connect with Dr. Smith on LinkedIn or other channels, feel free to do so. I'll make sure that is below as well. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Careers Podcast, where we provide a platform for you to ask hard questions and get real answers. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for more episodes every other Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern.